New Hampshire rental laws outline the rules that govern rent-related matters such as security deposits and eviction. Whether you are a tenant or a landlord, it is important to know these state laws well in order to avoid any liabilities or conflict during the tenancy. In this video, we'll give you an overview of what the law says about lease agreements, required disclosures, security deposits, and evictions. eForms is the largest online database of fillable legal forms. Check out the link below to access a fillable lease agreement template. Let's first go over the basics. What is a lease agreement? A lease agreement is a rental contract between a landlord and a tenant. Depending on the type of agreement, whether it's a month-to-month lease, a standard agreement, or a rent-to-own, both the landlord and tenant are bound to specific terms regarding the length of the lease, termination, and more. Because a lease agreement is legally binding once it's signed, breaking the contract can result in hefty fines or even legal action. Next, let's take a look at required disclosures. In New Hampshire, there are a total of 3 disclosures that the landlord must provide to the tenant. Move-in checklist. The landlord must provide a checklist for the tenant to detail any pre-existing damages and necessary repairs to the unit. The tenant must return the completed checklist to the landlord within 5 days of moving in. Security deposit receipt. Unless the tenant pays for the security deposit via check, the landlord is required to provide a receipt stating the amount of the deposit and the financial institution where the funds are being held. Lead-based paint disclosure. Under federal law, the landlord must provide a disclosure about the possible presence of lead-based paint on the property if it was built on or before 1978. Now let's take a closer look at security deposit laws. The maximum amount a landlord can request for a security deposit is equivalent to 1 month's rent or $100, whichever is greater. Also under state law, the landlord is required to return the deposit back to the tenant within 30 days of the occupancy ending. If the tenant shared the property with the landlord, state law stipulates that the security deposit must be returned within 20 days unless a written agreement stated otherwise. Finally, let's cover New Hampshire's eviction laws. In New Hampshire, a landlord may evict a tenant under the following requirements. Non-payment of rent. If the tenant is late on rent, the landlord can issue a 7-day notice to quit. State law requires that a demand for payment detailing the amount owed is provided alongside the notice to quit. The tenant has 7 days to repay back all rent and late fees within 7 days or face eviction. If the tenant has received a demand notice 3 times within a year, they will not be able to cure the violation. Non-compliance. If a tenant breaches the terms of a lease agreement, the landlord can issue a 30-day notice to quit. This gives the tenant 30 days to fix the violation or move out. Substantial damage to the property. If the tenant causes substantial damage to the property, the landlord can issue a 7-day notice to quit. Termination. If the landlord wants to terminate a month-to-month lease for reasons other than non-payment of rent or non-compliance, they must provide 30 days notice to the tenant. Want to learn more about New Hampshire rental laws? Visit the link in the video description below for a comprehensive breakdown on all things related to lease agreements, evictions, and more.